What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikiPikaPaPa, and guess what? We're not talking about Sword and Shield today. This is just to show you what we typically do for Sword and Shield. We look at top 20 singles cards, we look at booster boxes, we track them by month over month. We've been doing it for about a year now. Well, guess what? I warehouse the same information for Scarlet and Violet, and I asked you if you'd like to see the month over month view for Scarlet and Violet, and you said yes, so guess what we're talking today? We're going to be talking about Scarlet and Violet from the same month-over-month view that we do for Sword and Shield and Sun and Moon and XY. You know, it's hard to believe Scarlet and Violet is about a year and a half old. That is just absolutely mind-boggling to me. We have seen some awesome sets come out, and we're going to start looking at it like this. Now, I'm not going to be able to aggregate the top 20 singles cards until the entire era is over, like I've done for Sword and Shield and Sun and Moon, but there is no reason why we can't start looking at these sets month over month. The only thing I will say is remember, take a lot of this with a grain of salt. Traditionally, sets go through this Pokemon pop and flop. They start super high, they work their way down. Although in Scarlet and Violet, we have not seen as much flop as we've seen in the past. But this is an awesome way for us to kind of keep a finger on the pulse of what's going on month over month in particular sets. And most importantly, we're also going to look at some individual cards. So, with that being said, listen, if you enjoy this type of content, if you love the data-driven approach, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We do fun stuff like this all the time. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up, and if you have questions or comments, drop them down below. So without further ado, let's start talking about some Scarlet and Violet. And the very first one we're going to talk about is we're working our way from Scarlet and Violet base forward, and Scarlet and Violet base did one thing right. It continued the trend of being a less desirable set because Scarlet and Violet base just can't seem to get a whole lot of momentum. I think we are a couple short months away from Scarlet and Violet possibly not having a single card over $20 in value, which kind of breaks my heart a little bit. Now, the booster boxes were all the way down at $90, but the booster boxes are starting to creep their way back up. Now, if you look at Sun and Moon base and Sword and Shield base, you know the base sets, even though the cards don't command a high price, their booster boxes, you know, they have a pretty high dollar attached to them, but just remember, those were very different collecting environments. Both of those base sets came out pre-pandemic pump, and certainly not the frenzy that we're in right now from Scarlet and Violet. So I'm not saying Scarlet and Violet booster boxes at $95 isn't a great steal. I'm just saying keep it in perspective when you're trying to compare it to those other sets. However, Paldea Evolved has been on fire as of late. Now listen, it has had a lot of really exciting cards in it. We've seen a whole lot of booms. We've seen cards going crazy, but overall not a great month. Not a very, very exciting month in terms of price growth from singles cards. Now the booster box is knocking at the door of $140, so that continues to go up, and obviously the Pokemon Center exclusive Elite Trainer box is just doing what it's doing and doing well. However, I wonder if now that we have Twilight Masquerade, and I think Twilight Masquerade, you know, according to the market and, you know, according to a lot of people, is a great set. I think there's a lot of tension on Twilight Masquerade sealed product, a lot of attention on the Greninja, some other cards. We'll talk about that later. But it might be pulling away from Paldea Evolved a little bit. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting to look at was how these Paldea Evolved, you know, the chase cards have performed. So the Magikarp card over there, you know, it is finally starting to slow down a little bit. And you will see that over the last year, it has kind of plateaued and then spiked, and then plateaued and then spiked. And after the last spike, it started to come its way back down, and it's almost plateauing at the previous plateau. And for me, I think that's healthy. I'm fine if this card settles in the 110, 115 range. I certainly don't think this needs to spike up to a $200, $300 card. I just don't think that makes a ton of sense. I think the artwork is beautiful, but obviously a very hard card to get in a PSA 10 gem mint holder, right? I think the gem rate on this is like 22%, so that's driving a lot of the value there. The other thing is the Iono card. Trainers in general in the Sword and Shield era didn't perform really well, but I do think that the artwork in Scarlet and Violet for a lot of these trainers is actually leveled up quite a bit, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more later on in this video. And the Iono card was, you know, the first, in my mind, the first big trainer to come out. Obviously, awesome artwork coupled with amazing card play, so this card's shot through the roof, but it's been working its way down. It's just been slowly stair-stepping its way down. I don't know where the bottom's going to be. I don't know where it's going to find that support level, but it's down to $60 right now, which is kind of expected when you're talking about ultra modern trainer cards like this. Now, the card that has not slowed down but has continued to rise is this Raichu card right here. Now, another card that I think is being driven by incredibly rare gem mint 10 rate, right? Like this thing is a 17% gem rate. That's as low as you're going to see. Matter of fact, the lowest that I can think of to compare this to is the Burning Shadows Charizard at a 17%. I mean, this card is really low. There is less than 230 of these in PSA 10 gem mint holders out there in the world. I mean, these are just incredibly hard to find in high grade, and I certainly think that that's helped driving the price. Plus, it's Raichu. Like, that's a fan favorite. Absolutely love this card. So I think we have 3 awesome cards from Paldea Evolved. A little bit of the Thunder is being lost. It's being stolen for Twilight Masquerade, which is good. We've got more exciting sets coming up, so we'll have to see where this all settles out, but I still think Paldea Evolved is a fantastic set, and I think it's going to do really well in the long run. So the next 2 that we're looking at, Obsidian Flames and the monster that is Pokemon 151. Now, there's a lot of green in Obsidian Flames, and at first when I sat back and looked at this, I thought, oh, Obsidian Flames is doing really well, but when you look at it, I mean, these are $2, $3, $5, $7 cards. You know, there's just not a lot of star power there in Obsidian Flames, even though it's a Charizard set. Now, I will say the Charizard up there at the very top, it's kind of been wishy-washy. It's been having peaks and valleys and peaks again. I think it's starting to find some support, which is exciting for me because I think there are some certain things about that Charizard card which give it a little bit of opportunity to maybe, it's not going to be a top 10 card, I don't think, but it gives it some opportunity for some relatively decent gains in the long run. And then, of course, 151 just does what 151 does. It's just green. It feels like it's green all the time. It is absolutely insane, the amount of love and how awesome this set is. It's another set, same with Obsidian Flames, you know, that suffers from really poor print quality, which I think Pokemon 151 didn't need poor print quality to have really high value cards because they're absolutely amazing and everybody loves that set. But when you couple all of that together, Pokemon 151 is going to be great for a very long time. And now, you know, we're going to have this little restock or reprint or whatever it is of 151 tins and booster bundles, and we'll have to see how big that is. We'll have to see the impact it has. But I'll tell you right now, PikiPikaPaPa is not sweating it one bit. Matter of fact, look, even the Ultra Premium Collection boxes, those Mew Ultra Premium Collection boxes are having a time. They're all the way up to $126, and the Pokemon Center exclusive ETBs are up to $130. Absolutely stunning. So of course, I was talking about the Charizard from Obsidian Flames, and it looks to me like it's starting to find a support line right there in the low $40 range. And again, this is a card. It doesn't have a low population. There's about 4,000 of these in PSA 10 holders, but there's been over 18,000 that have sent in to get graded. So again, another card with a really low PSA 10 gem rate, which is going to help keep the prices somewhat competitive. I know those PSA 10s are going for about $200 and a raw card's going for about $40, right? So you're talking about, you know, about a 5 times value. So the raw card versus the PSA 10 card. So it'll be interesting to see where both of those go in the long run. Then of course the Blastoise, I wanted to call that out because we talk about the Charizard from 151 all the time, but the Blastoise has actually had a really good couple months. Now what we see in 151 is there's kind of this band. They kind of peak and valley between a support line and then a resistance line, and the Blastoise has done just that, but it is at the very top of that support, at the resistance line. So we'll have to see if it's able to break through here anytime soon. And as I said, 151 really from top to bottom is just a stunner of a set. I love this Squirtle card, and when you look at the way this card has grown ever since it came out, just really healthy, really organic, really slow and steady, upward to the right growth. I mean, that is what you want to see. And I could have picked any card from 151. I truly could have. Like, I just picked the Squirtle because it's my personal favorite, but you can pick any of the cards up there, and there's just a really healthy growth trend to them. Again, we'll have to wait and see what this reprint or restock does to the overall market value. I don't think it's going to be too much, but who knows? I've certainly been wrong in the past, and it is something we have to make note of. Now, next one's right here, Paradox Rift and Paldean Fates. And when you first look at this, you're going to go, oh my God, there is blood in the streets for both of these. And I will say Paradox Rift has had a very, very rough go of things. It can't seem to find its footing. You know, you got the Roaring Moon at the top, which has been really steady in that $50 to $55 range. And I actually think that that's a pretty decent entry point for that card. I think it found its support line early. I don't see it breaking below 50 anytime soon, but I certainly don't see it spiking up either. So if it's a card you just want to stow away, thinking that, hey, maybe when Scarlet Violet comes to the end, you think that's going to be one of the cards that's going to pop off. You know, there's going to be a lot more Paradox Rift that's going to be open, so you'll have plenty of opportunities for it, but it's been awesome to watch that card really find the support line early on. And then Paldean Fates. You know, Paldean Fates has the Bubble Mew. Obviously, it's got the Charizard card. It's got Shinies in it, but the thing is, the Shinies are actually starting to fall, so we're going to have to see if the Bubble Mew and the Charizard at the very top can go ahead and hold on for the long run. But again, you see all of this red in Paldean Fates, but in actuality, the set has been doing relatively well. And so I just pulled 3 of the cards. Of course, I'm going to pull the Bubble Mew and the Charizard to talk about those. And then, of course, I had to show, you know, the Charmander, right? This was one of the high dollar, high value, big chase baby shinies as soon as Paldean Fates came out. And it's been coming down, right? It's down about 17% over the last 6 months. Certainly not the bottom falling out by any means, considering 17% over 6 months for a brand new set. That is not a huge drop. But then you got the other two. These are the anchor cards, and I think they are strong enough, and when you look at them, they've kind of bounced around like we saw with those 151 cards, you know, no crazy spikes up, no crazy drops down. Like the market just feels like that Charizard, at least right now, is about a $110 card. It wavers anywhere from 100 to 115, but it's going to float right in that $110 range. And then the Mew, which has been working its way up with some ups and downs, and especially we saw a sharp down a couple months ago, but it immediately rebounded. Like, is that card destined to be a $100 card, or is it going to say in that $80 range? You know, we're going to have to keep an eye on this, but the thing I like about Paldean Fates is I do think that the baby shinies give it some uniqueness, and I think it gives it some chase factor, and then I do think that these two cards are awesome, awesome anchors there at the very top. No booster boxes. Obviously, it's a specialty set, so those Pokemon Center exclusive ETBs with the Mimikyu stamp promo in it. Big fan of that, so I think Paldean Fates does have a bright future, although it might have some turbulent months ahead, but long run, I think it's going to be A-okay. The next sets we're looking at right here, Temporal Forces, and of course Twilight Masquerade. Now, Temporal Forces, I'm going to share with you right now, I still really like it. I do. I think Twilight Masquerade has stolen almost all of the thunder, and everybody's focused on that, rightfully so. I think Twilight Masquerade is going to be a very special set. You know, these sets kind of identify themselves early on, and Twilight Masquerade certainly has done that. I keep waiting for the bottom to fall out of this Greninja, as it hasn't, and it hasn't yet, even though Twilight Masquerade is still relatively new. You know, when I went back and I looked at how Evolving Skies performed, and I am not saying Twilight Masquerade is Evolving Skies. I'm not saying that, right? But what I am saying is you look at some of these big sets, and a lot of them, the market kind of realized it early on. So we'll have to see. I still want to wait a couple more months to see what happens with Twilight Masquerade, but at least right now the market seems to think that this set is going to be absolute fire. I mean, booster boxes are all the way up at $123. Obviously, the Greninja card is up there at almost $300, and you know, Temporal Forces, again, I like that card lineup. I really do. I think there's some awesome art in there, and it might fly under the radar for a little bit, and it might not be the top 3, top 4 sets of the whole Scarlet and Violet era, but I do think that getting those at $100 a booster box, I think it's going to end up, I don't know, maybe it'll be like a Silver Tempest type set, or maybe it'll be like an Astral Radiance type set or something like that. Like maybe not as big as Lost Origin or Evolving Skies or Chilling Reign or Fusion Strike, you know, but I certainly think it's going to be a good set, and we'll just have to see how it all plays out, because Lord knows we have a whole lot of life coming ahead of us in the Scarlet and Violet era. Now, one of the things I wanted to call out about Twilight Masquerade before we get off of that is when you look at the top 5 chase cards in Twilight Masquerade, 3 of those top 5 chase cards are trainers, okay? And we don't typically see real trainer-heavy sets here in this ultra-modern era. And then 4 of the top 6 are all actual trainers as well, right? So when you think about it, 4 of the top 6 cards are trainers, and these are the top 6 in terms of actual value. And then when you get down below that, you have a lot of the mask cards, right, which are coming in there. So we're going to see a lot of shuffling in the top of the Twilight Masquerade set, and those are some of the reasons when I did my preview of it, I was like, you know, I like this set. I think Greninja will be good. In all transparency, I never thought Twilight Masquerade was going to do this. Not in a million years. I would have bet anything in the world that would be an okay set, but not the best set so far of Scarlet and Violet era. But it just goes to show you, hey, listen, no matter how much research you do, sometimes you can be wrong. But what I did want to talk about was some of the cards here that I do think have an opportunity to be special. And I do like this Eevee card, believe it or not. And I know the artwork is super cute, and it might not be taking off like the Greninja right now. It's, you know, up a little bit. It's up about 30%. It's crazy to say 30% is a little bit, but when you're comparing it to the Greninja, which is up, you know, 100 and something percent from where it started. But the Eevee card, I think, has the opportunity to really kind of anchor this set as well. And if I had to pick one, I love the Carmine card. I know that's an easy pick because it's the number 2 most valuable card in the set right now, because obviously this is the big chase trainer card, but I do think the artwork on this is special. And I think this Carmine card, you know, coupled with the Iono that we talked about earlier in this video, I think those 2 cards have the opportunity from a trainer perspective, you know, to be really special in the Scarlet and Violet era. And then I've said it before, I really like this Blood Moon Ursaluna. I love this artwork for whatever reason. It just gives me the kind of vibes that, hey, it might fly under the radar. As you look at it, it's down about 36% versus where it came out. I'm not buying it anytime soon. I'm going to keep an eye on it and see when we find those support lines. But I do think that if I can get this at a relatively cheap price, I think I would stash a couple of these away. I like the artwork. I think it's a cool card, and I think it's got some opportunity. And again, I just don't see 4 of the top 6 cards being trainers forever. I just don't think the support is there for trainers right now. So I think we're going to see a whole lot of shuffling there. So really, that's it. I mean, we have, you know, new sets that have come out, but they're too new for us to talk about right now. I'm really excited for Stellar Crown that's coming out. You know, Shrouded Fables kind of is what it is. We'll have to see where that ends up shaking out. And I'm very excited, like I said, for Stellar Crown. I'm excited for the rest of Scarlet and Violet. I'm excited to continue this video series because I think we're going to learn a lot as we go through this. And I hope you're excited about about it too. I love looking at month-over-month views. I think it helps us keep a finger on the pulse of what's going on at a macro level. And again, I think it helps us level up from an investing and collecting standpoint. So if you found value in this video and you want to see more, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. If you have questions or comments, drop them down below. And as always, if you like what you see, give us a big old thumbs up. I appreciate you more than I can say. You have an epic one, and I'll talk to you soon, everybody. Thanks. Bye.